Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here. I hope you're having a great day. Let's take another look here at Solana, see what's going on. We see this perfect retest, this local high as a new low. This is how trading's supposed to work here. So if you kind of zoom in for my play out from Saturday, you can kind of see the price action came back down to retest the local high as that new low of roughly 136. So is it going to go shoot to the moon now because of that? Not necessarily. It just implies it's moving the way that it should, effectively bouncing off that local support. Okay. Now, what's going on with Bitcoin? Well, the simple way to understand it is I'm expecting Bitcoin to pull back to one of these two levels here, maybe the 87 or 85.5K range to fill its fair value gap and bounce off that local high as well. Okay, so oftentimes the price will eventually pull back to do that. I do like the idea or the concept that Bitcoin is on fire and it's going to move towards 90,000. I think that's still a distinct probability. I just think we're going to probably see a bit of a retracement first, or at least that's how it should work. Before we take this, nice strong push to the upside. Either way, Bitcoin's looking pretty strong. That does reinforce benefit for Solana. So let's take a look at the back end data here and kind of see what's going on and go from there. And I do ask you just hit the like button, comment below if you get a chance, please, folks. It's crazy, but we get less than 5% likes to my videos, and the comments are always super positive. So I'm just surprised that people don't do that. Please, 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 just help grow the channel. Hit the like button every time you watch my videos. I've got people watch me every day for the last 3.5, 4 years. So it's awesome. I appreciate you. And thank you so much for being an awesome part of my life. So let's take a look here. Liquidation back. This is basically a 7 days on the left-hand side. We can see 135 is that heavy pocket to the downside and 145 roughly to the upside. So we're kind of in the middle of that range, but near the lower part of that. I'm leaning a little bit more towards the price pulling back to the 135 to 130 range, just based on the simple fact that I feel Bitcoin may start to slow down and lose steam. And just if you saw how strong Bitcoin moved and how not strong Solana moved, or most altcoins for that matter, it's not really a good testament to altcoins shooting straight up from here. Okay, I think they're lagging behind. Bitcoin dominance is 64% or higher, and it's just not really a good look. Having said that, we can see liquidation delta is still quite high at roughly about 2 billion. If you stay too high for too long, the likelihood of pullback becomes greater. So I do think that Solana, while it's looking pretty good overall, probably one of the better altcoins out there, it's still underperforming versus Bitcoin potentially pulling back. There's a decent chance that we do see a retracement here for Solana. 135 is that local area of open interest. Not really much else to say here. There's just it's kind of reinforces support. So that 135 to 136, the local high effectively turned into a new low. That's the area of confluence. So the likelihood of the price hanging out in that area and going higher is greater pending Bitcoin doesn't drop. All right, so you always got to recognize that. Bitcoin pretty much calls the shots regardless of how great altcoins are. Sometimes altcoins are doing better than others, and for right now, I would say Solana's not really, doing phenomenally. Okay, so it's just there's that. Anyways, we got this local liquidation here. I'll update that on the charts here, but part of that has been swept. We do still have some liquidation left upwards about 148, but that's a kind of a higher range. But 145 would make sense if the price does run to the local high, roughly 145 to 147. All right, so when we look at our point of control here locally, we can recognize there's more support at 126. So if you do consider a short with this coin, I would keep it tight and make sure you're not going to, not trying to go to the ground floor. Solana does have a tremendous amount of buying pressure in the 120s. So keep in mind the profit margin isn't super large on a short position, so it may not be advantageous to consider that. I'd be leaning more towards a long in the 120s if that were to happen. Okay, so that's kind of where my head's at for the moment. But daily time frame, we're above all moving averages. We're over 50 on the RSI. Money flow index is high. These are all generally favorable signs, implying that further upside makes more sense. So I would be careful betting against this coin. Taking a look at the 4-hour time frame, we can recognize as well roughly a similar scenario. 120 to 130s is that support range for us. We can recognize here we're also over 50 on the RSI. Money flow index is pulling back. This is usually an early indication of weakness, kind of letting us know that there's less money flowing in than flowing out effectively. So it's generally not a good sign to try to take a long into this. Okay. Now, if money flow index continues to pull back and we start to bottom out at that 136 range and MFI is super low, that's a different story. That implies that the sellers lost pressure and that there's not enough selling and there's more people buying. And we're not there yet, but we are transitioning here, so to speak, showing us that the 4-hour time frame is losing momentum, but from a support mindset, we can see 125, 130 as that solid support range for us. So overall, this is actually a pretty good situation for Solana. It's just we do see some early signs of reversal here, and that should and could happen if Bitcoin continues to pull back. If we see 85.5 from Bitcoin again, I think Solana will be in the upper 120s or low 130s. And that to me seems like a pretty decent area to consider along. We have nice confluence with our fib levels, our points of control. There's a lot of reasons why that's a good area. Either way, I'll post our playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. That's pretty much all we got here for now. It's mostly positive, but just note that I think short-term reversal makes a tremendous amount of sense right now. All right, folks, have a good rest of the day. We look forward to seeing the next one. Make sure you join us over on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord if you haven't yet. And to those who just joined our community, congrats on our nice profits here for our trades. 32% on one Bitcoin long, 58% on another. And we also took a long from Solana, and it's been pretty good. So awesome stuff. Thanks again, folks. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.